Holy sinister sound waves, Batman! Tiki here, and I have been watching through each and every episode of Batman Beyond for the first time. Dragon, tell them why we are here.
Well, you see, folks, long ago, I made a vow to educate Tiki in the ways of Batman the Animated Series, serving as his spirit guide to Gotham in a way. But that was the past, and we must now enter the Batman's future.
And tonight we are talking Babel. That's right, season 2, episode 12. The same title as the 2006 movie starring Brad Pitt from the same director as Birdman. Dragon, do you remember the movie Babel from 2006?
Not particularly.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know why I went all red letter media there for a second. Okay. Dragon, this is, for my money, I really like this one a lot. I think that it had a really creative power set for the villain. I really like how they depicted the gibberish. The Act 1 set piece with the animals was also really unique. And most importantly, Dragon, this is definitely up there with some of the most compelling Bruce Wayne episodes that we've gotten so far. So so thumbs way up for this episode. I'm it's definitely in good company with some of the better ones that we've covered so far.
All right.
Kogias is in the comments. He said it's time for another episode of Bat Teen Beyond. Did the Babel film purposely name itself after that? I highly doubt that.
We're smart.
I think that movie, the whole conceit was like, what if like language barriers? That was like the main sort of anyways, you don't care about Babel from 2006. You care about this Babel. So Dragon, tell us about this Babel.
So this was directed by one of the MVP directors for Batman Beyond. This was directed by Kurt Gaeta. Now, Kurt Gaeta, he did some of the greats in relation to this episode. He did Rebirth, which we kind of flash back to briefly in this episode. He did Shriek, of course, the introduction of the Shriek character. Did Disappearing Ink, which again was kind of a strong Terry Bruce episode. Mm-hmm. So the writer on this was the great Stan Berkowitz, the Burke.
Writers of Burke.
Yep, writers of Burke.
God.
Burke. Anyway, so of course he created. It was essentially one of the Shriek was kind of like Alan Burnett, like way back, pitching like a sound villain essentially. So sort of like so Shriek had been kicked around, but Stan Burke was the guy who fleshed him out, like turned him from a design to a character sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so he did Shriek, he did Disappearing Ink, so a little kind of reunion for Gaeta and Berkowitz. Studio worked on this was Coco with some yummy marshmallows of Dong Yang in there. Let's see. So basically, the story behind this is, as you can probably guess, they loved the Shriek episode in season 1. It's always like a perennial favorite in the writers' room and with the fan base. Everyone loves that Shriek.
I think I really liked it too, from what I remember. Right?
Yeah, it has like the iconic, the whole like, what do you call yourself in your head? Well, that's my name now. Tell that to my subconscious.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. Right. That was the big one.
It's got the ending, and it has the underrated moment no one ever talks about that I love. The whole, like, do you want to forget what happened to your father? That whole...
A lot of good Great Conroy moments. Ironically enough, I feel like in this episode, I think there's one that's very definitively like the Great Conroy moment, but I feel like there's a couple other like kind of like honorable mentions for that as well.
There are some good ones. There's even technically a silent one. We'll get that. Well, not silent, but I mean, I don't know. We'll get that.
I think I know which one you're talking about. If it's okay.
There's some good ones, but I think hands down there. I think honestly, there are 2 hands down moments in this one that are really good, and you can go with either or. But I think one towards the end for me is.
Yeah, I would be shocked if we weren't thinking of the same one.
Anyway. So they love Shriek. It was a popular episode from season 1, so it was like, can we bring him back? Well, I don't see why not. It was sort of like, yeah, let's bring him back. And again, it's kind of the recurring pattern of the episode. The villains that they really like, they tried bringing back, and they brought him back ideally in Yeah, season two, the back half of 2 and 3 kind of blend. So technically, we're going to see Shriek again this season, but it practically feels like season 3, given how short change season 3 is compared to compared to 2. It really it's long as season 1, but it just feels like less kind of complete given it didn't have a finale. But
Mhm.
anyway, I'm not going to split hairs with that. The point being, elements of this story were adapted from the Tower of Babel comic. Now, Tiki, do you remember anything about the Tower of Babel DC comic?
I can't say that I do. I
Well,
mean, I do think that certain elements of the story kind of get roughly adapted into the Dark Knight with the whole Batman having to turn himself in and that moral dilemma.
oh yeah. There's definitely some of that in there too. I think retroactively, and again, fingers crossed, Christopher Nolan watching DCAU.
Mhm.
But yeah, so Tower of Babel is a very memorable Justice League story in which Ra's al Ghul again they shifted in the adaptation with the animated movie Justice League Doom, which is good. Anyway, sorry. So Tower of Babel, essentially the comic that movie is based on. The premises Ra's al Ghul swapped for Vandal Savage in the animated movie. Ra's al Ghul basically breaks into the Batcave and he basically I guess hacks into the Batcave. He finds out Batman's contingency plans for the Justice League and he enacts all the contingency plans on the Justice League to take him down. And he does some very interesting things. And the main plot that he has to destabilize the world is basically the Tower of Babel idea, the whole gibberish thing with the big tower and everything. That is from that comic, and that's what they put here.
Cool, cool.
Yeah, so point being, I don't know, it's just everyone when they think of that story, they're always thinking of the very iconic Batman had the contingencies to take down the entire Justice League, which we got a lot of mileage out of, and that was like the big like Batman has contingencies moment in comics.
Sure, sure, sure.
But yeah, it's kind of funny they kind of pulled like another thing from that comic and kind of really got some mileage out of it with the Babel component. Now, in case again, I'm not a religious scholar by any stretch, folks, but essentially, the whole Tower of Babel thing, the genesis of it, from what I understand, is from the Bible. Long story short, guy builds a big tower. Big guy upstairs doesn't like it, views him poorly, and he says, "You know what? I'm gonna link this tower to everyone kind of speaking gibberish." And essentially, the gibberish turned into the multiple languages throughout the land. They all went to separate parts of the world, and that's how you get different languages across the globe. That's essentially how the whole Tower of Babel, the whole Babel Bible
You
story.
know what, Dragon? I'm not gonna lie. That's actually probably the coolest bit of Christian lore that I've ever heard.
You got that. When you dumb it down, it sounds kind of neat. Okay,
Yeah,
and still
yeah,
it's a very
totally,
dry read
totally.
though. It's bound to be a very dry read.
All right.
Anyway,
Go ahead. Anything else?
yeah. Lastly, just again, as you kind of circled around earlier, again, this is a big Terry Bruce Wayne episode, and in the trilogy of Shriek episodes, it's kind of an interesting pattern to note is that there is a progression and an arc. I mean, not I don't think it necessarily reaches the heights of this episode, but if you look at all 3 episodes, they're very big, growth episodes for Terry and Bruce and their relationship and their dynamic and everything. So yeah, we keep building on that when we see Shriek for the last time in another episode this season.
Mhm.
All right.
Cool. Just to shout out some comments from Kogias. He says, I remember Captain Logan from Geekvolution making a big deal about how Shriek was his favorite villain in the show. Because he liked his design. He said that Shriek's hand looked like teddy bear hands. They do,
Vaguely,
don't they?
they do.
As a kid, I like season 2 more than season 1, but that might be because I was terrified of Blight.
We all were.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, Dragon, season 2 is like I think it's kind of had its ups and downs. I feel like the episodes that really hit are probably better than anything in season 1, but overall, so far, I still think I kind of prefer the more serialized nature of season 1 with the Blight stuff.
Yeah.
Although I will say the Maxine arc is definitely that's definitely getting some traction. So,
Oh yeah.
all right, so let's just go ahead and dive right into it, shall we?
All right. All right, so we start things off. I love my favorite thing in this episode is the full circle story structure we have going on here, where it's a nice intimate moment in the Batcave between Terry and Bruce, and they're plucking. They have the damaged suit in the chest area, like
It
almost
basically
identical.
feels like the end of a previous episode. It's
Yeah,
kind of like that Indiana Jones cold open sort of deal.
I mean, yeah, kind of like that's more in the middle of an adventure, but yeah.
Sure, yeah. You're right.
But no, you're right.
I'm trying to think of another comparison, but anyways.
But the thing though, like we're in the midst, like an adventure has happened. So Terry and Bruce, they're in the Batcave. We have we kind of it's a nice way of reestablishing again for I guess anyone like freshly coming in the whole Stanley philosophy of every comics, someone's first. For every episode, someone's first. It's like, okay, we've established Terry has been Batman for a while, and he's doing things, and we have the older Batman there, kind of giving him guidance and kind of telling him stories and stuff. So, they're plucking shrapnel out of this suit, and I love the idea that Terry has been trying to get Batman stories out of Bruce. And again, I love how full circle the structure goes here with him telling him the story and the theme of sacrifice within the story and
Mhm.
everything. And yeah, I love Conroy's, I love Kevin Conroy's casual, like humble moment here. It's so great. This is not look again. There's a lot of great Conroy contenders. This is kind of more of a lax, great Conroy. It's like yeah, it's the great Conroy.
Oh God.
But yeah, there's this moment here where it's just like, well, yeah, what did you do then? Well, what does it matter? It was a long time ago. It's him brushing it off, like, well, he's like the fact that he was kind of getting into the story. He's like, well, that's not well on
Yeah, and of course, I mean him dwelling on previous Bat family members is, a big part of what drives his character, even if we don't really see that play out that much in the show. It's just definitely in the context.
And the interesting thing when we look at stuff like that is that again, they had an idea of like, okay, Bruce isn't in contact with the Bat family because he alienated him. But when we get into the reasons of retroactively, have a lot of layers as to what traumas happened to the Bat family to shatter it the way we did. And there's always still like leaps because we don't know every single thing that happened in the 50 years, but still, it's like those little moments they in retro. It's nice that they play it as is now, and looking back on it, they have even more context. Like, yeah, Bruce really doesn't like dwelling on the Bat family because of the bad stuff that's happened. They blames himself for,
Mhm.
a lot of bad memories for him. So, but we have this great moment there where he's trying to get out of, and he says, like, in case you haven't noticed, there's a lot of shrapnel to go through here. So, of course, this line pays off tremendously by the end of the episode. And which is like, do you think with a suit this advanced you'd be able to dodge a simple hand grenade? I did. Bad problem is Mad Stan had two hand grenades.
Love the callback to Mad Stan, by the
Oh,
way.
wait till we have a big Mad Stan episode coming up.
Well, I mean, I feel like this is the way to use him, though.
Yeah,
Like, if
yeah.
not for, like basically dragging the whole philosophy of like, like the Rhino being like a good villain to open a Spider-Man movie with. I feel like that's Mad Stan in a nutshell.
And they're going to be consistent with that, Tiki. But trust me, Mad Stan, we're going to use him in a very interesting way soon.
Code Gios has a comment really quick. He says, if you haven't done it already, hold on. If you haven't done it already, do you plan on doing a recap podcast on Return of the Joker and the Justice League Unlimited episode epilogue?
That is true. We are going to do that, but there'll be Return of the Joker is going to be after season 2. Epilogue is going to be at the very end.
Is that like one of the last things we're going to cover on Batcave?
Essentially, Tika, that's
that is the end.
That's the end for us. Yes. Epilogue is going to be the end of it all for us. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Let's see. So it brings up like how did you know Robin was going to get there in time to save you? It's, I didn't. So you went knowingly into a trap with no way out. Well, it's part of the job. So again, the topic of set.
Something tells me that this is going to come back into play later on in the episode as a theme.
But again, it's a nice way of kind of introducing that and just kind of like throwing it out there. But again, kind of like a real human, kind of like one-on-one, intimate kind of conversation sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
To me, then Ace just randomly goes crazy. He's like, "Hey, he's telling us."
This is like almost like a jump scare, man.
Yeah, Ace just goes goes wild and it starts attacking Terry. And this kind of builds in the whole thing of like in the beginning, Ace really didn't like Terry. You're thinking, oh man,
Sure.
so much for the progress. No, Ace is going after Terry, and Bruce is like, Ace, down. Then he's attacking Bruce all of a sudden. There's a real frantic scene. Like, oh god, are they gonna have to go the old yellow
Yeah, I
route
mean, they're
here?
literally like, they don't even have time to like put the trank darts in a trank gun. He's just literally like physically throwing the darts at him.
Yeah. He's tossing like the trank darts at Ace, and it's a sad moment there. But I like that's a great clue to the mystery of like the animals in Gotham are going wild. What's one of the things that leads to that? Sound.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at the vet and we see all the pets in Gotham going crazy, including Max's cat.
I really love Max popping up more and more. I feel like if there is one kind of like line to draw throughout this season, I think it's probably her. Is that fair to say?
I think so.
Plot-wise?
Yeah, I think plot-wise, we do have a lot of growth with Max. I think it's probably a through line through season 2, for sure.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's see. So anyway, Max has the offhanded line like, "Oh, I'm glad I don't live anywhere near a zoo." And of course, a zoo.
Holy if I ran the zoo, Batman was my other contender for the holy. Or holy we bought a zoo, Batman. I think if I ran the zoo was probably better. All right. Kogia says it's a shame that Ace never became Bat-Hound in the series. The only name drop of Bat-Hound in this continuity I can think of is a joke in Mystery of the Batwoman.
Which, if you want to, if you want to connect dots in a really kind of bittersweet, tragic way, it's like Tim Drake at one time mentioned having a bat hound, and when I eventually take in this dog, I will think of him as a bat hound enacting the wishes of Tim Drake that one time. Right, but
All right, so we're at the zoo, Dragon, and holy crap, this is like, I mean, could you imagine? I could honestly, the scary thing about this scene, Dragon, is how realistic it is, especially in today's like social media landscape. Couldn't you just picture seeing smartphone footage of like this exact shit going down?
Yeah, elephants trying to jump the barricade.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's like it's a scary premise.
Something interesting. This episode, Act 1 of this episode with the zoo, reminded me a lot of a really great Legends of Tarzan episode, which unfortunately I wish I could direct you people to directly, but I can't. Thanks, Disney. But Legend of Tarzan, there's this episode.
You know they're casting a live action Princess and the Frog, Dragon. You know that's a fucking thing now.
Okay.
I'm so over Disney. I'm sorry. I'm so over it.
Legend of Tarzan is this great episode where basically randomly all of Tarzan's jungle friends are going crazy, and that really is like they have like a huge like a monolithic temper tantrum, and they're like becoming a mob practically, and it's this frantic thing of Tarzan has to figure out what's going on before all his friends try to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's something similar to this for the reasons. So. Anyways, Batman tries to stop him, and he ends up getting grabbed and tossed around by by an elephant. Then a gorilla escapes. DC and their gorillas, man. There's always DC.
That's true. That's true. They do have an affinity for the gorilla.
At the end of the day, I think it's because they just love King Kong.
I'd also like to think that a lot of them grew up with that one Donald Duck short where the gorilla's on the loose.
Maybe. I think it's kind of a combination of King Kong and Planet of the Apes.
How good is that Donald Duck gorilla short, though?
It is. It's great.
We did cover that on Hijinks, right?
I don't think we did.
I think we should. It's freaking iconic. Anyways.
Anyway. So, now we have Batman versus, he's being pummeled by a gorilla. Thankfully, he turns on the camouflage. And he basically ropes up the gorilla. And everything just kind of stops suddenly as the elephant's about to charge. And says, "No, we'll take it from here. Come this way, Tiffany." All right. So we're in the Batcave.
Yes.
Bruce deduces that there's interference in the sound frequencies, which would cause the animals to act like that. Of course, interference in sound frequencies, calling card of one particular villain, Tiki. And who was that villain?
The Riddler. No, I'm just kidding. It's Shriek.
Yeah. So we have Shriek and Ollie. So Ollie is a new...
Not Frank and Ollie.
No.
Could you imagine if these guys were modeled after Frank and Ollie, though?
Imagine that documentary.
Oh,
Shreve working in a sound lab.
God.
Hey, Shreve, how's it going? Like, Ollie, don't bother.
Seriously, that fucking documentary is so humble and nice, man. It really is.
Frank Thomas with a shaver, man. Come on.
All right. Anyways.
Okay. Anyway, so Shriek and Ollie. So Ollie, I like how we're keeping splicing and play in the background a little bit here because we have a guy who clearly looks like he's messed with his DNA a little bit, but he's just an average Joe.
Uh-huh.
So did you recognize the voice of Ollie?
No.
Michael Rosenbaum again.
Oh my God. Okay, Drag. I'm not gonna recognize Rosenbaum's voice. Okay, I don't have an ear for his voice.
Oh, well, he played Terminal recently in season 2. I don't know. I thought maybe it'd be. Anyway, point being.
Well, I feel like that's a compliment for him, just because I feel like he does do a good job of camouflaging his voice. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's funny. This is the third time they've used him in Batman Beyond.
Uh-huh.
You had as 3 different characters. You had him as Terminal. You had him as the like the manager of like the weenie place. And then you have him here. And again, the idea is like this is where they got the idea of, man, we love working on Rosenbaum kid so much. Let's make him the Flash in Justice League.
Yeah, right.
Of course, then led to, hey, we like that Flash guy. Let's make him Lex Luthor in Smallville. I know technically one came before the other, but let's not mince semantics. So, point being, we have Ollie, new kind of splice crony to Shriek here. Ollie's questioning the whole ransom plan. Like the idea is, okay, you're basically going to torture the city until they pay a bunch of creds not to. This isn't about creds; it's about revenge.
Naturally. Yeah, so he basically just can't stand that Batman is being hero worshipped. I feel like it's kind of like a classic case of like a hero creating their villains. It's almost kind of like got shades of The Spot a little bit.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the other grudge he has too is this guy worked in sound, and now he's deaf unless he wears the suit or puts on that little hearing aid thing. So basically has. Here's the thing: if you look at, because if he takes the thing off, you hear like the little, like little high pitched ringing. So technically, that's like permanent tinnitus, I guess, is kind of the way of looking. It's like tinnitus, so it's kind of tinnitus / deafness.
Yeah.
It's basically it works like deafness, only there's a high pitched kind of sound. Anyway. Yeah, so he hates that Batman took the thing he loved most away from him, and also in having to deal with Batman foiling his little plan there, he had to, he had to become a bad guy and a criminal, and his name got dragged through the mud. So he hates Batman. The fact the fact that he is being hero worshipped and everything. So he wants revenge. He wants to take he wants to take everything away from him, the way everything's taken away from him.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. So anyways, of course, you can't hear anything outside the stinking suit. And that's why he wants to turn Gotham against the Batman here, very kind of proto Dark Knight-esque.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now, how does he pay Ollie, Tiki?
Oh, this is like, for me, this is probably the most twisted thing in the whole Dragon.
I agree. Full-hearted.
This show has had a few creative, like, basically drug analogies, and I think this is the most twisted one.
Mm-hmm.
So I forget exactly what he calls it.
No, it's just the fork, Tiki.
Yeah, it's basically just a tuning fork that is just
time with the fork.
That is just set to a frequency that just gives your brain pleasure. It's twisted. It's so twisted.
It's sound vibrations that stimulate the brain's pleasure center. So it's really edgy because it's half drugs, half fetish.
Right. Oh God. Yeah, you're right. Oh,
because that's the thing. It's like he's kind of like, you could look at it as like, just kind of pleased with drugs, but he's they look at the disgust on Shriek's face.
No, yeah, you're right. There is definitely like an air of shame around it for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so and of course he removes the thing just to reestablish death. All right, let's see. So see, isn't that better than Creds and that creepy bit where we reveal the whole tinnitus kind of deafness thing? Okay, so we're in the Batcave. We exposit. Here's where things start, folks. So we're in the Batcave, and we start to exposit that Shreve got out of the mental hospital after losing his hearing. and they're wondering how the heck he's doing this. In the middle of things, Conroy starts talking gibberish.
Dragon, the first time that you saw this episode, did you think that there was something wrong with your TV?
Well, not TV. I thought, like, wait a minute, am I mishearing this? Like, something wrong with my
Right, right. That's kind of what I thought as well. I was like, wait a minute, did HBO Max just switch to a different language track?
Yeah. So yeah, so basically we're hearing gibberish from one another during this, and they're wondering what the heck's happening. And I just love, like, Conroy saying here, Terry, what's happening to you? So you gotta imagine this must have been a really fun record of them getting to kind of speak this
Oh, totally, yeah.
made up gibberish kind of language.
Okay, so we have a really good transition. Terry pulls the Batman suit over the camera, transitioning into him in the bat plane jet thing, whatever it's called.
Okay, stop right there. Stop right there.
I'm sorry.
It's the Batmobile of the future, right? It's the Batmobile. It flies. They fly now.
It flies now. Okay, got
it. Flies now, but it's the Batmobile, okay?
Okay, it's the Batmobile, Dragon. I'm sorry.
Car. Anyway, also, again, I love the bit where Conroy doesn't say a word, but old Bruce is giving him that glare once they realize words aren't going to do him anything. He stares at him and says, okay, that's the cue. Suit up.
And then I love Bruce and Terry communicating with each other through text. And this is going to sound like a really cheesy Great Conroy moment, and it's certainly not the Great Conroy moment of the episode. But I just love the kind of like self-serious tone that Conroy has when he's like typing out these little messages.
Yeah, I know. I love when Claire has to exposit to Terry.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Just tell him that the whole, basically he's found a way to interfere with the vibrations of air molecules, and this Terry's like,
it almost kind of gives me some like Indiana Jones teaching in the classroom vibes.
Little bit.
Just the way that he vocally performs it.
But I love how he just says, like, the vibrations of human speech. Like, that's what I get through sleeping through physics. All right. So let's talk about Jace. Jace's a real piece of work we're going to find.
Not Jace!
Yeah, so Jace here, Mr. Ponytail. The quote jingle all the way. Oh, Mr. Ponytail Man. So
this dude's just an idiot, Dragon. I don't know.
Jace here, he's doing like a kind of a, I guess not kind of like a crane of the future sort of thing. They're doing kind of like almost like crane construction in New York. Only what if the crane was like a hovering forklift?
It's a helicopter with a giant magnet.
Sure.
I'm just saying that's essentially what it is.
Okay. Anyway, so he's about to like drop off the payload, and then it's like, hey, let's grab pizza for lunch. And of course, in the midst of this, gibberish starts. And he's like, wait, copy, I can't hear you. Look out! And he smashes into the thing, and he's about to fall. And we have this great sequence of the Batmobile going to action, saving people as it hooks onto the debris before it falls on everyone down there, and he basically reverses the thrusters. I love the immediacy and the danger, and importantly, we're showing the heroism of the Batman here. So when we question it later, or we put it to the kind of measure it against the gratitude of the people of Gotham, we're seeing Terry's doing a good job here. He's exceeding max thrust to slow this thing to a crawl when it falls. And they have this lady on the street corner is like trying to point out to the guy like, hey, look up, just to run over and save his bacon.
Well, my whole thing with Jace and why I think it's kind of an idiot is that it's just like, I don't care if you lost communication. You need to be a little bit more of your surroundings, my guy.
Yeah, you're right. We have this great moment, though.
Like, use your eyes.
Speaking of that, we do put the fear of God into him in a really awesome way. We have like one of the coolest bat saves here in Batman Beyond, where Terry fires missiles at the falling debris. Well, basically, it went the cable snap. And I like the animation on the cables because when the cable snaps, there's like a reverb and he falls. So he's falling. The Batman shoots some missiles to destroy the payload, and then emerging from the debris and the big cloud of explosion is the Batmobile. And Terry just coming out of it and just grabbing the guy midair. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Anyway, so everyone's cheering him on and everything. Like, hey, thanks. And
This
here's
is
a
very
little.
much an episode that kind of gets into like the J. Jonah Jameson, like, Spider-Man being a public menace sort of idea.
Yeah, fun little detail. That guy hugs Terry. Jace hugs
I did
Batman.
notice that, yeah.
And just given what's going to happen with Jace later, it's a really nice detail to have.
Right, right.
Okay, so Commissioner Gordon, aka Babs.
And the more that we see of her in the show, Dragon, the more I'm really, really liking her. I love her dynamic. I love how it's definitely Gordon-esque, but it's obviously, it's not the same Gordon, obviously. It's another flavor of Gordon. But it's still like, I don't know, I love that kind of like push and pull of the authority figure who's trying to be in the right and trying to kind of like do things by the book, but at the same time has to sort of play ball with Bruce to a certain extent. I don't know. I'm really liking it.
Oh yeah. So we have basically the gibberish is lifted. So
I love how this scene is edited with the gibberish.
yeah, we're going from each perspective, and like you're like
exactly. Yeah. It's
like,
seamless.
yeah. And then of course, from the moment we lift it, the realizing, oh, you're actually making sense. Well, at least as much as you usually make. So Shriek calls in, gives his demands. He wants Batman's life. He wants Midnight Hill Square, bring Batman there, and so it's very much kind of essentially it's a 6 to 18. When he checks his watch, it says 6, so it's unclear if that's like 6 a.m. because it was kind of in the morning, the earlier scene. I don't know if it's 6 a.m. or if it's 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So the point being, it's either 6 to 18 hours they got to make a decision here.
And it's very much kind of like in the same spirit as starting tonight. People will die. I'm a man of my word.
Yeah. So very much a Dark Knight-esque
Uh-huh.
there. Or things are going to get worse. Also, really nice lighting on Shriek during this call. He's in silhouette and everything.
I think just in general, this episode has very strong lighting, I've noticed.
Oh, yeah. She says, "You're out of your mind." Duh.
Okay, can we just stop right there? I love the sass on that line delivery, Dragon.
Pretty good.
Duh. It's just like, because Shriek, like up until this point in the episode, I feel like he's very much been kind of like the distinguished bad guy. You know what I mean? Especially like in comparison to Ollie there with his little weird sexual drug fork thing. But no, there it's just he reverts right back to like, yeah, I'm out of my mind. What of it? I don't know. It's just a delightful little addition to make the villain a little more quirky.
Yeah, that's the thing. Shriek always had that interesting thing where he did not start off as a mustache twirling bad guy. He was just an average. He was a sound guy. He was a sound geek,
Mm-hmm.
and he was just forced into villainy by Derek Powers, which then
Again, very much some shades of the Spot.
Yep.
Right.
Terry and Bruce, they're in the cave. They're working to determine where the signal is coming from. They have this 3D blueprint of Gotham set out, which looks really cool.
It does. It does. Terry, get down to the cave now. I don't have slides, Terry. I have 3D blueprints. The technology has advanced.
And Terry's on the other end going, "Ooh, I'll be right over."
Oh my god.
I hate the slides, man. This is even better. All right, so Barbara calls, and she's telling Bruce that the truce is temporary, and that basically she's mobilizing her forces, but a lot of people could potentially die here, and he wants Batman. That's his price. So I love this. Without hesitation, Bruce just says, "There's like no contemplation or anything." He says he wants Batman. He can have me. He says, not the Batman that he wants.
We're keying up for the Great Conroy. He's like warming up the Great Conroy muscles with that line.
So we have the big moment here.
Oh yeah.
Bruce stands up for Terry because basically, she wants what you just expect. What you just want to hand Terry over. Is like, no, just give him to me while I figure something out. It's just I had some good teachers. Basically, giving Bruce some props there. But Bruce isn't giving anyone an inch here. Where he says like, yes, but you work for the mayor. You work for a mayor that sell the kid at the drop of a hat. And then we have this really meaningful line here. It's like the runner. I would say the runner-up for the Great Conroy, but it's debatably the Great.
Ooh, that's interesting because I would definitely say it is the Great Conroy
There's
moment.
two really great Conroy. There's this one and the one at the end.
That's
I
fair,
stand by
yeah.
the one at the end personally, but this I understand. I
I
feel
don't know. I really, really love the idea of him standing up for Terry and like just acknowledging how much Terry has done for the city up until this point.
so. Let me tell you why this is also a great contender for the Great Conroy, because he says, "All I know is that kid. That all that kid's done for the city. It's time for the city to do something for him." Now, the layers to the scene and the performance and what's going on here story wise is that I think I speculate that in some sense, Bruce Wayne in the winter of his years, he's looking back for a reward for the sacrifice that he's made for the city time and time again, the sad life that he leads now. I think in some sense this is him kind of like a deep personal desire coming out that he's kind of like deflecting onto Terry somewhat. Is
Yeah, I can
projecting.
see that.
It's like, you know what? The city, it's like Bruce isn't looking for gratitude back when he was in it, but like now with being on the sidelines like this, just kind of getting the perspective, like he's seeing the world like through the way Alfred probably saw the world. You know what? Why can't people be nice to the person out there?
Exactly. Yeah.
Why can't he's sacrificed so much. I push this kid hard to be the best Batman that he can, and he always gets in trouble. He's always missing. He's missing on the life that he probably deserves, and Bruce isn't going to like make any apologies for that. But it's the fact that, you know what, when the chips are down the city, it's also on some levels that Bruce hoping that the mission works. That maybe the city at like 50 years down the line from roughly from when he started is like, maybe the city's gonna be better and actually stand up for itself for a change, and it's still not. And I think it frustrates him.
Yeah, definitely,
I think
definitely.
a lot of layers. Also, retroactively, again, knowing what we know, post Return of the Joker, and when you look back on things, retroactively, he won't let another Tim Drake affair happen again. He will not turn over again. Again, depending, I guess, depending on how Code Geass sees it, a sidekick or his replacement over the way Tim Drake essentially what happened to Tim Drake happened to Tim Drake.
Mhm.
So interestingly, Terry makes a bad exit on
He
Bruce.
does. He does. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
So the stakes are real when that happens.
And I love Max getting involved here and kind of like being. I feel like in this moment, as if it's not really been solidified, I feel like Max kind of officially becomes his Alfred in this moment. Is that fair to say?
I mean, they joked about it from the beginning, but you're right. This is a moment where she actually does become the Alfred. Yeah,
Like functionally.
I concur. Yes.
Hmm.
Or he's basically looking to Max for guidance. He's getting some impartial kind of advice here from Max, and it's a really great scene too.
This is
Right?
very much like kind of like an echo of the "some men just want to watch the world burn" kind of speeches that Alfred would give.
Yeah, yeah. So Terry's looking at, and I like when you think about this episode, we leave it ambiguous at the end what Terry would have done here, and we do get to see. I think we can make reasonable assertions as to and assumptions as to what Terry would have done and what he kind of leaned towards doing. But
Mhm.
it's the fact that Terry is initially approaching this and like it's my life versus thousands. But then Max brings up the point. Well, think about there's other types of losses. Like mother losing her son, like a little brother losing his big brother. I mean, Dana, myself. Are you really gonna do that to us? Like that's a really good line.
Sure, sure.
So then the news comes on again. A little dark, kind of a combination of Dark Knight Returns and Dark Knight the movie, because you have like the newscaster kind of comedy of like
Let's
all
face
you
it, all the best Batman media just uses the terminology Dark Knight in some context.
Yeah, yeah. So again, much like Dark Knight Returns, you have the media presence and like all the debate about Batman going on, and very much a situation like the Dark Knight.
Hmm.
So let's see. So we have the zoo, the guards from the guards from the zoo. We basically visit all the people Terry saved earlier in the episode, and they're not going to bat for him.
No, they're really not at all. Yeah.
We basically check in with the citizens of Gotham to get their take on things. It's like, do we really want to protect a vigilante? Yeah, he saved your bacon with those animals. It's like Shriek's crazy, but there's two sides to every story, and you don't go around provoking a madman. It's like what?
God.
But again, it's the sad fact
Then
that
just Bruce watching it and just being like, these fucking people, dude.
well, Jace is the one that really sets him off too. He's like,
Exactly,
"That's the
exactly,
zoo
yeah.
guys." So it's the fact that we have like our zoo guards there, and again, it's the fact that just the people will always turn on people and be really selfish with each other in the real world. So it's a very relevant kind of moment that we're seeing here. Even well, again, it was in the future then, so I guess still it's even more relevant now. But
Dragon, I'm sorry, did we skip over the flashback?
no, not yet.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay.
Let's see. Okay, now here's what happened. So I'm sorry, we're not. Let's see. Jace is after the flashback. Just the guard, they have the zoo guys. That's before the flashback. So Shriek and Ollie, they're preparing the thing. Terry walks by the old house that
Hmm.
he and his father used to live in Rebirth. So then he flashes back to the big dramatic end of Rebirth.
And I gotta say, I think this was a really good kind of like reminder of exactly what Terry's fighting for and what led him to this this road. I'm really happy with how they pulled that off.
But I like how you look at this thing, and it does lead credence to Max's argument of like why he shouldn't sacrifice himself.
Exactly. Yeah.
By the same token, it's a reminder deep down of like why he's doing this. And but that's the thing. There's an
Double edged
argument.
sword. Yeah, it's really nice.
It's an argument for both sides, and again, it kind of motivates him to make a choice that's in the middle ultimately. Because again, as Bruce kind of circles around, we don't know what he would have done. So,
Sure.
but yeah, of course, we flash back to the loss of Warren, I guess, which is very sad and very affecting too. Is no matter the way, again, it's just the way we've composed that and everything. And I like how Will Friedle's performance in that scene really is good. Where even though he's only speaking in the very end of that scene, if you really look at it.
Hmm.
Anyway, so then we have Jace being interviewed there, and we're in the Batcave, and Bruce is watching this. Batman got us into this mess. He's got to get us out. Why should we all suffer
Yeah,
because of a
this is
private
fucking ridiculous.
because of a private dispute? Like
A
you,
private dispute, Dragon. You know what's a pit dispute? Like someone rear ending someone else's car and then having to exchange insurance information, Dragon. That's a private dispute.
yeah, it's like you saved, you saved your life, and also saved the life of the people you endanger by being really stupid with your job,
Good.
like not looking where you're going.
Again, Chase, Jace, not Chase, Jace, who calls themselves Jace. Use your eyes.
Also, again, it's just so twisted the fact that Jace was like hugging him in gratitude when he saved him,
Right,
just turning on him
exactly.
like a dime here, like, oh, Batman, F Batman. And Bruce Wayne's upset,
Fuck
and he's like,
Batman.
right. So he's
Nice.
upset, Bruce Wayne is saying, like, spineless fools.
I can't say I blame him at all.
Yep. Oh, by the way, here's a little. I want to get your thoughts on this. I noticed something. It's always. I was aware that this thing kind of happened. But looking back with a fine tooth comb, I don't know if this is the first time we've seen it pop up like this, but it's the first time we've had like an extended glimpse at the Batcave in a while.
Uh-huh.
If you look in the background, there's this detail of the Batman Beyond suit is still in the case. Um, Terry's going to walk down the stairs in a few seconds, still dressed like. But I'm saying in the same shot, you have the bat suit in the case, and him in the bat suit. So
Hmm.
it's kind of the question of like, logically, you'd think, okay, you're going to have more than one suit, but we are digging the shrapnel out and everything of the one suit. So the presumption is that they only have one suit to work with. So it's kind of I think it's an anime, bit of a background painting.
Yeah,
At
right,
the end of the
right.
day, it's like they didn't want an empty case, so they had to fill it with something. So
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and chalk that up as a we don't care. Not like
it
a
is.
super enthusiastic we don't care, but we don't care.
That's just an Easter egg thing I wanted to point out because, like, in my head, can as a kid watching, it's like, oh, he's got more than one suit. It's not a mistake because he got more than one
Uh-huh.
suit.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, okay. So after all this, Terry shows up. He's suited up, and Bruce saying, "Terry says, surprised? I wouldn't blame you if you stayed home. Really good moment here. So I wouldn't blame you if you stayed home." After all those ingrates have been saying. And Terry has this really meaningful moment here. He says, I didn't get into this for the gratitude, and I have a feeling you didn't either. And I love the way we play the silence on Conroy there,
Yeah.
old Bruce Wayne here, where he's looking knowingly. He's like, the boy's right. I've kind of lost my way a little bit this episode.
Totally, totally.
So Terry, and also we go from that. It's kind of like he's already somewhat proud of him. Then he gets really proud of his boy.
I'm proud of my boy.
I'm proud of my Bat Boy.
God.
So Terry figures it out all on his own where the sound is coming from, looking at the 3D model, and of course this is such a glorious, rare moment where he's gleeful, he's running out. I know how he's doing it, and there's Bruce like, how's he doing it? As Terry's explaining, the Babel is back on. Like, he scrambled the frequency again. I can't. This is like, he just points at the screen, and Bruce looks. He has this great gobsmacked moment on gobsmacked look. And old Bruce Wayne's face is looking at the tower. The tower he's using as a giant tuning fork. You're gonna have a lot of Happy Rosenbaums in a few seconds.
Oh God! Yeah. Oh no.
Anyway, so Batman arrives. He tries using the old. This is a nice little detail. He tries using the eavesdropping function on his fingertips, and ends up. He can't hear because it's vibrating. The whole tower is vibrating. So he knows he's in the right. He knows he's in the right place. So we get a fight with Shriek. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
He slashes the suit again, kind of setting up our full circle ending where the suit's going to need to be repaired again. He turns off the gibberish so we can monologue, essentially. This isn't how I wanted it. You're supposed to give yourself up to me. You should have got in writing. Right. Let's see. So he sees let's see how funny you think this is, and he basically does this really painful thing where he basically adjusts the settings so the giant tower is sending painful, ear-splitting feedback to everyone. So now it's really great revenge when you look at it, because it's kind of the inverse of the third act fight scene from the Shriek episode, where now Terry can't hear because he's experiencing excruciating pain. And this is kind of like what he felt that last encounter with him.
Sure.
That's just good kind of like thematic.
And Will Friedle he does a really good job just like vocalizing that pain with the scream.
So thankfully he's able to kind of compose himself so he can get, he basically throws a gas bomb and he runs to the inside of the thing at Mach speed. I mean, he runs really fast in that suit. Glides really fast in that suit, and he gets down there. He basically smashes the control panel and mixes up with Ollie a little bit. And Ollie's like, "Oh no!" Panel. The whole building's basically it will shake itself, reverberate itself until it collapses, and that's essentially what's happening here. Shriek is trying to get Batman on the way out there, and Batman's trying to warn him, like, "Hey, look behind you!" It's just like, nope, he can't hear him because he basically had the advantage. He took off his hearing aid and everything, so he's going there completely deaf. It's like, you don't bother pleading now, and you're dead. And of course, very poor choice of words. He looks up and crash. He gets buried in rubble. And we have this really cool, meaningful bit here where in the aftermath, all the destruction of like the tower came to collapse on all of them, Batman emerges and he rejects the help of the emergency services.
Sure.
Of the city that turned on him, like, no, I'll save you people, but I don't want your help because I know how it really is.
He's taking control, man.
So then we have this perfect ending. Oh man, I love this ending so much. We have a full circle kind of payoff here where Bruce genuinely thanks Terry. He says, thanks for what? For reminding me why I got into this. It's been so many years now. But then here's all that's still great Conroy. Here's one over here, like exceptional Conroy.
Okay,
where
yeah.
Terry says, "But you never really forget, do you?" And then you have that pause, and you have that great music cue, and you have like that sorrowful kind of like tone in Conroy's voice as old Bruce says, "No, you don't." And again, it's kind of a callback to the other Shriek episode with the whole like, do you want to forget what happened to your fathers? Or again, there's a great thematic kind of thread in that, where you have.
I hear what you're saying. I don't want to diminish it as being a great Conroy moment because it is a great moment. I don't know. I still think him going to bat for Terry is my personal pick for the great Conroy moment.
It's great. They're both excellent Conroy moments. I don't know. I really do love the thematic crux of it.
I honestly think this might be the first time that you and I are split on it. Because I think you and I both agree that the other one is really good, but like I don't know, I can't budge. I think him standing up for Terry against the arrogance of the city is just freaking
Let me
awesome.
put it this way to you: they're both great moments. So this is the moment that gives me chills. You know, this is the moment where
That's
I get
fair.
goosebumps where you hear that like, no, you
Whereas
don't.
I feel like him standing up for Terry is more of like a fuck yeah, you go, Bruce, tell him, you
No,
know.
you're right. You're right. It is. I do love this that aspect of again. It's kind of a in retrospect when you look at it, it's like again, it's the continuing notion of whole. You know, you don't want to forget what happened to your father, in which it's like you don't really forget, do you? Where it's like it's kind of compounding on itself in a sense.
Of course, of
All right,
course.
so then Bruce, then we go full circle of things here. Where now Bruce is asking him the question about his adventure. Bruce is like, "Let me ask you something. If you didn't figure out, about the tower, would you have turned yourself in?" There's a moment of pause, and Terry says, "In case you haven't noticed, we have a suit to repair."
Mhm.
So, also I love
And
that
again,
look between
very full circle with everything.
that look on Bruce's face too, just that knowing look of like, he's learning. You know, it's kind of it's not. I
Totally,
mean,
totally.
it's not necessarily pride. I think there's like a subdued pride, but I think it's more of just like, yeah, he's getting it now. It's kind of a bittersweet sort of like, yeah,
And you
he's
know what? You know what's interesting, Dragon? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this season, or I'm sorry, this episode is kind of like roughly about the midway point in season two, right? Ish.
I believe so. Yeah, season two.
So we have 3 seasons total, right?
Yeah, we have 3 seasons total. Let me do it this way. This season is 26 episodes. So this is
So I'm
episode
saying,
20.
like, roughly, this is about the halfway point in the whole series. Is that at all accurate?
I mean, well, third season. I don't know
Like,
number.
I'm not saying mathematically. I'm just saying, like, roughly as far as, like, the actual story and the arc and everything.
I think dramatically it's the midpoint. So I would go as
Uh-huh.
far as I'd go as far as to agree with you there. I think this is kind of the dramatic kind of midpoint of things in the grand scheme of things. Sure, like this is
Sure,
like a really
sure.
good midpoint. Which again, retroact, they had no idea knowing that when they're making
Of
it.
course, of course. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think in kind of a neat retroactive way, yes, it is kind of the midpoint in our story. So yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. I mean, final thoughts, Dragon. I really do think this episode fires on all cylinders. I definitely enjoy it better than the first Shriek episode. One of the things I really like about it is that all 3 acts are very distinct with the action. We have the zoo in the first act. We have Batman saving people and trying to make things right in the second act, and then of course the third act is the confrontation. And there's some really interesting kind of like moral philosophy and musings going on, kind of Nolan style, and some really fantastic Bruce Wayne stuff on top of just a little bit more development from Max's part. So just overall, just a very tight, well composed episode from top to bottom, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd put it over the original Shriek episode, but again, I think honestly the Shriek trilogy period is really strong. Of all the Batman Beyond stuff, it does have a lot of really great moments. And I do feel, in the grand scheme, this episode does get lost in the shuffle. I mean, that's it, because Shriek was like the big, it has like a lot of the iconic moments in it.
We'll have to
But
go back and watch Shriek, but I don't know. I like this episode for some reason a lot more actually sticks out to me about it.
this episode does, I think, get lost in the wayside, and I feel that's kind of a shame because it is really strong, and again, like, thematically it's strong. It's really nice. It's nicely structured. The animation's great. I think everything comes together really nice for this episode. But again, it's the strength of the Terry Bruce Wayne stuff, and just that ending is just so powerful to me. It's like really, it's really good stuff. And again, like the layers of like thinking about like a Batman who's kind of like reflecting on life at this point through Terry, and Terry has this moment where it really impresses Bruce. It's good stuff.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Well,
All right. Well, big thanks to Kogias as always for being in the comments. Let's see any other comments here. He says it would have been funny if Bruce put his villain's old costumes up in the display cases. That would have kind of been funny.
well, they are though.
Some of them are, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the presumption is that they're as much as he could get are probably all in there, but essentially we see the usual same ones in those cases. Yeah.
He also says since Shriek is a sound theme villain, he should have been defeated by having Bat Teen throw a giant sound system at him. I still don't approve of this bat teen thing, by the way,
It's a
Kokias.
man, darn
it. Like Spider-Man is a man, you know? I feel like that's pretty much like the tier that I would put Terry McGinnis Batman in, as far as like actual manliness goes. All right. So yeah, Dragon, what is up next?
A nostalgic battle, a synthetic date, house party pandemonium. Can Terry save Howard Groot from a horrendous heartbreak? Will sparks fly? Tune in next time to find out. Same animated bat time, same animated bat place.
On the next visit to Batcave Beyond with Terry's friend dates a robot.